Good evening, everyone, and we are live. Another K&K Sports Show special. This time we're doing the New York Yankees, and I watched Kurt have fun with the Knicks. I've watched our good friend Paul Rosen have his fun with the Mets. So now it's time for me and my co-host tonight, Ryan Scoop Woodhams, to have our Yankee uh, special. They say they save the best for last, so I
Mhm.
don't think this is going to be the last special. But if it is, we save the best for last. Ryan, how you doing?
Doing well. This is gonna be a fun time.
I agree, and like I said, we're going to get into some Yankee talk. It's been a bit of a disappointing start to the season, but we'll see. Trade deadline coming up. We got some trade deadline talk. We'll throw at you guys, and any audience questions throughout the show we'll answer. We're going to grade the first half. We'll talk about some injuries, and we'll look ahead to next year. So Ryan, how about we get it started with some first half production from the Yankees, and we'll throw some grades at some of the team if you'd like.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so let's start with the captain. Aaron Judge before he got hurt. Ryan,
Mhm.
291. I got him listed at 291, 19 home runs and 40 RBIs. Uh, I'll let you go first. How would you grade his first half performance before the injury?
Yeah, no. He pretty much anybody that or anyone could have expected coming out of his historic season last year. He probably did as well as anybody could have expected, if not better. And I think that what you're also seeing is, sometimes you hear that, a player's value or value of anything is most felt when it's not there and when it's not available. And I think we're seeing that with Aaron Judge now. The Yankees have been wretched offensively in his absence the last month and a half. I got to give an A+ to Aaron Judge.
Yeah, I got it. I think we're going to have some differences, I'm sure, throughout the show. Uh, I'm going to agree with you on the solid A plus for me. Uh, you nailed it. The team is showing that they can't do much without him right now. Like he is that valuable to the team, and MVP type player deserves an A plus. Batting under 300, 40 RBIs, 19 home runs in less than a half a year. Yeah, he's right where he would have been last year. We got a couple comments from our friends over there at Denver Bronco Roundup. For those who don't know, check them out. Tuesday nights, Keith Brugman, Jody Moncrief, Albert Knoppers do a great job talking Denver Broncos. Anything Denver Broncos you need to know, they'll talk about it. And Keith saying it's the amazing K&K Sports Show with the fantastic Kenny and Scoops. So thank you, Keith. And
Thank you, Keith.
Jody saying we lost two in a row to the Rockies. That's bad.
Yeah, he
Uh,
didn't take long after the end of the game to be blowing up my phone.
yeah, I mean today was a bad loss. I'm not going to lie. You can't go into it 7-5 and then give up a two-run homer and then lose the way they did today. And another good friend of ours, Ryan David Slade over there in Colorado, he's got to check out his Willow Blends and Seasonings company. Excellent rubs, sauces. I mean, I use it all the time, Ryan. I've been using the high elevation domination, salt, pepper, garlic rub on steaks, even
That
some
sounds so good.
seasoning some tater tots, David, and they've been amazing. Let me tell you. Uh, and there's our boy Kurt. What's up, boys? It's time, boys. It's time. Boone and Cashman have to go. This does not work. Change it up. Do we not hear this every week? But he's out there and enjoying himself on vacation, so we'll let him get his 2 cents in. Uh, have fun, Kurt, down there in Seaside area this week, Seaside, New Jersey. But look forward to you commenting. We'll get to it. But let's move on to the players now. We may have a little disagreement on Ryan.
Hmm.
We'll start with the infield. I'll give you Anthony Rizzo, 257, 11 homers, 39 RBIs, 81 strikeouts.
So for Anthony Rizzo, I'm gonna give him a C, and the reason I'm gonna give him a C is because I think had I done this 6 weeks or 2 months ago, he was a clear A+. He was arguably the second best player offensively on the team next to Aaron Judge, and then all of a sudden his power is just gone. So you take, what I consider an A and then an F that averages out to about a C for me.
You know what, Ryan? I'm again. I thought I'd be disagreeing with you here, but you know, I didn't have him at an A. I had him more as a B. I'm hoping he gets to that B, maybe A minus, with Sean Casey as our hitting coach. I think he might fit the help Anthony Rizzo out a lot. But I saw a stat today on the Yankee game that makes me give him even a C minus. 0 for 24, two outs, runners in scoring position. That's not acceptable from Anthony
No,
Rizzo. I'm sorry. So I'm
no,
going to
it's
give
not.
him C minus. Let's get a question in. Got Keith Brugman, Ryan. When it's relevant, how much it's relevant now? We'll answer it now. How much are the Yankees hoping the Angels go on a losing skid in order to get a chance at Otani, Ryan?
0 out of 10, and I'll tell you why. I know that the report came out from Buster Olney that the Yankees are going to be aggressive on him. That we were aggressive on him last year. Shohei Ohtani does not want to play in New York. Whether people want to accept this or not, he does not want to play in New York. I understand that he doesn't have a no trade clause, but I cannot see a team giving heaven and earth to, even for 2 months of him if they know that he's just guaranteed to walk after the season. If the team's going to give up that much, they believe that they have at least a chance to extend him after the season, and the Yankees know that they don't. He does not want to be in New York. If I'm the Yankees, I'm not even, and it sounds, probably some people will think that this is dumb. I'm not even going on a full court pursuit for Otani because I know that I'm not keeping him after this year, and my team is just too flawed for him to be the difference maker, taking us from where we are now to World Series prohibitive favorites. It's not worth it to me.
Now, the question I have for you, I get all your points. Let me ask you a question. Like, do you believe all this hype that he doesn't want to play in New York? I mean, I've seen players in the past, Hideki Matsui, uh, Kodai Senga's over there, and when with the Mets, Japanese baseball players coming over here and doing well. Do
He
you
didn't
think it's
even
all just a rumor that he doesn't
No,
want to
because he
play,
didn't
or
even take a no, because he didn't even take a meeting when he came over from Japan with the Yankees. Either he didn't take a meeting or he took a meeting and then ruled it out immediately. It's one thing if get the sense that they're just they're just trying to jack up the price one thing or another, but no, there's been too much cut and dry hard line. He does not want to be a Yankee. The and it's not just the Yankees. My understanding has been right along not only does he want to play for a winner, but he wants to stay on the West Coast and he doesn't want to be in a huge market. The teams that I've been hearing are the Padres, the Mariners. Those are the teams that I think are really going to be ones to keep the eye on. But no, I 100% believe that he doesn't want to be a Yankee and that he doesn't want to be in a big market or on the East Coast. And I that's been the story since he came over from Japan. If this were like a new thing that came out, I'd be a little skeptical of it. But we've known this straight along. And when it came out last week that was all still true, in my mind, I don't see why the Yankees would waste their time with that.
Jody's got one saying about DJ LeMahieu, move him to first or second. I don't know about that, Jody. We just lost Josh Donaldson, so that kind of like blessing in disguise because now DJ can be floated around third base. And Peraza came up, so he's one of our stars. So we're going to see what we do at the deadline. If we're going to make a big splash or just trade some pieces to try and improve our positions. Because Jody's saying Nolan Arenado makes more sense, but I think there was a thing saying the Cardinals aren't going to trade him. Is that correct?
Um, my understanding from what I've read and the things that I've heard, um, they're looking toward 2024. If they were going full rebuild mode, then I could see them doing that. But if you're still trying to contend in 2024, which it sounds like is the case for the Cardinals, I can't see them punting on Nolan Arenado. He's under control for a while. I can't see really a lot of teams being willing to take on the contract that he has. Um, and yeah, no, I fully expect Arenado to be on the Cardinals come August 2nd.
I got some trade ideas later on with a couple of third basemen that may be intriguing. Uh, Any chances of the Rockies going after Otani there, Ryan? Keith wants to know.
Yeah,
They're a small
actually,
market.
yeah, no, uh, he did not bring up the third thing that I said, which is that he wants to be on a perennial contender. So,
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately, I mean, no one would love to see Otani hit in Coors Field more than I would, but no, I can't foresee that.
Seattle's an interesting one because of the history with Ichiro.
Well,
Uh,
that's him and Hisashi Iwakuma.
yeah,
So yeah, no, that's a couple weeks ago. That's what I said. I think that this offseason, I think the Mariners are going to be the team to beat for Otani personally.
that'd be interesting to see. Uh, Keith's replying to Jody. I don't even want to hear the Mariners. He's an Angel fan there, Keith. So I get it. That's
Oh,
like us with
I
the.
didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's a big Angel fan.
Oh,
It's heartbreaking. Uh, let's continue on. So we graded Judge and Rizzo.
yes.
Gleyber Torres, up and down season, 259, 13, and 37. Lots of rumors about him. Could be traded at the deadline, but he's performing now at the top of the order. So what are your thoughts on him? First half.
He's got to be perhaps the most frustrating player on the team right now because on any given night, you see the glimpses of the guy who was an all-star when he first came over to or when he first came up to the major leagues, but then he'll just make a play at second base that should not be a mistake that he's making in this point of his career, and and his plate presence will just go off the rails. Um, the the situation that they're in right now, I think that I would probably give him, I'll call it a B minus, because again, I can't look past some of the ridiculous things I see in the field and some of the poor decision making, but there's a very strong argument to be made that he's been a top two player offensively on the team in Judge's absence, and perhaps one of the reasons why, as much as he's made some costly mistakes, perhaps just as much one of the reasons why the record since June 4th hasn't been worse.
Yep. And you know what? I'm gonna go just a slight right down the middle there. Solid C. He has his good games, he has his bad games. What I want to see Sean Casey tell him, stop automatically swinging at the first pitch. Pitchers are going to notice, and they do notice. And half the times he pops up or grounds out on the first pitch, and that's the frustrating part with me. And like you said, some ups and downs in the offense, in the on defense, straight down the middle, solid C, average average player right now. Hopefully
He
he
thinks
can.
he's got 40 homer power, and he doesn't. I think he still thinks he's the player that he was with the juiced balls. He's not. He's a 20 homer player who can give you some speed and some good contact hitting. Stop trying to be somebody you're not.
Here's a good question from Keith. If you could replace one player on the Yankee roster, who would it be? And who would be your dream replacement? No Otani for this one.
You want to take this first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll let you go first. I'm going to have to
Okay.
think about mine. That's why.
Okay. Um, and it sounds like low hanging fruit, but I got to go with Josh Donaldson. Um, at any other position, I think that we've got someone who I at least can, reasonably trust at the position. Um, so that's got to be it for me. In terms of who I'd replace him with at third base, um, I, I mean, I would do what they did today. I'd bring up Peraza. I'd put Peraza at shortstop, move Volpe over to second, and see what LeMahieu can give me on a daily basis at third with Gleyber Torres.
I guess I'm going to go a little different. I don't want to pick the same guy as you. Uh, I'll go any of our left fielders, whether
Yeah,
it's
that was going to be the other.
Cabrera, it could be IKF, it could be
Mhm.
Bowers, who's hurt. I'm going to replace him. I'm going to move him over to left field and still have Bader in center, but I'm going to bring over Ronald Acuna as my dream replacement. Give me
I think
Ronald Acuna, or keep him in center and move Bader over to the left. Either of those, I would do.
Yeah, no, I that would have been the Cabrera's age is the one reason why I held back because I think he's only been in the majors for less than a year, so I'm still willing to have a longer leash with him than some people are. Donaldson, he's been there way too long. I'm making way too much money to have the same level of a leash from me.
Absolutely. Uh, quick one. Jody wants to know the Yankees buyers or sellers. I think I know your answer, and my answer is going to be the
I
same.
have absolutely no idea why the Yankees would sell, even with their struggles. They're 2 games out, I think, of the postseason, and you've got a 200 something $1 million payroll. You're gonna, potentially lose a couple of your key players soon as their contracts come up due. No motivation in my mind to sell unless the bottom had completely fallen out over the last month, which for as bad as things are, they've been about a 500 team, which yes, that's not what we wanted to see, but we can't also pretend as if we're, the Mets. Sorry, but we're not 10 games out either.
Absolutely agree with you. We're buyers. Not saying we're gonna buy Otani or something like that, but we're gonna buy to improve our team on paper. We'll see
Right.
what those deals are, but that's my opinion on that. All right, so you had a B minus. I had a C for Torres. Very close. Let's move to our rookie shortstop, Anthony Volpe's first half.
Yeah.
211, 13 home runs, 33 RBIs, striking out a lot, just under 100 strikeouts, but he has 16 stolen bases. There's our
You
guy
want me to go first
Carson
on this
saying
one?
hello. Have a great show, guys. Woohoo. Yeah, Carson, we're doing a Yankee show. Waiting for you to do a little Tiger or Detroit Lions preview, Carson. Anybody wants to hop on with you, we'll get that
Mhm.
rolling. Put the pressure
Right.
on you to have a show there, but
You want to go first, Kenny? You want me to go
uh,
first?
I'll go. I'll let you go first. You've been going
Okay.
first. We'll keep.
Okay. So no, Volpe, I think, has been, playing. I think his defense has gotten better. The stolen bases is something that was much needed in the Yankees lineup. I think we can both agree with that. I don't. I think Volpe's getting a lot of flack more than he. I'm going to give him a solid B. I think Volpe, yeah, his batting average is not where some people might want it. Let's. This is his first 2 months in the major leagues, and he barely played. Excuse me, at AAA. So and he's playing shortstop, which in my opinion is not a long term natural position for him. Just based on his where he's at in his development, I think he's better off at second base long term. But no, I'm going to give him a solid B. I love his speed. I think his defense has, like I said, has gotten a lot better. Offensively, he's starting to come back into his own over the last couple of weeks. I don't think that Volpe's having a bad season at all.
I'm pretty much in agreement with you. I don't think he's having a bad season. He's playing every single day. He's not
Yep.
ever sitting a game out. Uh, Besides his average, and I'm a big average guy, but he is a rookie, so I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt there. Hopefully, with Sean Casey as our hitting coach, the strikeouts come down a little bit. But if
Mhm.
you give me 13 home runs in the second half of the season, that's 26 home runs from your shortstop.
In his
and
first
and and,
in his
and
first season.
in his first season as a rookie. So I'm with you on the B. I'm going to give him a B minus because I want to see the strikeouts slow down a little bit. 100 strikeouts in the
Fair
first
enough.
half, that's a lot. So I'm going
Fair
to
enough.
stick with the B, but I'm going to go B minus on him. Uh, Comment from Keith: if Prime Joe Torre was managing the team this year, would their record look any different? Uh, I don't know how much different it would look, Keith. I think our hitting coach had a style that the Yankees just striking out, a lot of holes in the swing. I think I saw today, even though we lost, a lot of you know not trying to hit the home runs, hit singles, hit doubles. That's the type of ball I want to see. So I don't know necessarily if the record would be much different. I don't know what your thoughts are, Ryan, but I think it would be close to the same.
Yeah, I think it's pretty on par. I don't think that would have made a major difference. I think that, especially in this day and age, and not to disrespect some of the great managers that we've had in the game in the last few years, the ability of a manager to heavily impact your team is mostly now in the clubhouse, it's in the the locker room, it's in the preparation, it's there's not, and it's in some of the things like when we see you know the arguments with the umpires and stuff like that, firing up your players, standing up for your players, stuff like that. It's a different game now. There's a lot more information coming at you from a lot more different areas, and it's not just one guy standing there with a lineup card, and you know it's a much different game than it was when Joe Torre was managing. And I think that for his era, Joe Torre, I think, was the right manager for the Yankees. Obviously, for this era, I don't think that he would necessarily be having this team any better off than the current situation.
Jody thinks it's time to move on from Boone. The only thing I will agree why it may be time to move on from Boone is sometimes as a player, when you get new faces in there as a coach and staff, you seem to play different. I don't know, like if I'm not saying Boone's not motivating them, but
Mhm,
the players get motivated for someone new in there. And I don't know who that is, whether it's Don Mattingly or whether that's Sean Casey. Sean Casey's
mhm.
now the hitting coach all of a sudden. Is he the next manager if Boone was to go? I don't know, but it's something to look to in the future if Boone when and if Boone does uh, get released by the Yankees. But we'll see. There's always a scapegoat. Right now, it was the hitting coach. Uh, so if the Yankees don't perform, there's going to be another scapegoat. We'll see who it is.
I
Uh,
th- um, as far as what Jody has was just asking, and not to beat a dead horse, so I'll make it quick, but I'm struggling to really see what, and I take the point that you just made. Aside from that, I'm struggling to see what people expect is going to radically get better by switching Boone out for somebody else. I think it's clear that the players love playing for him. I think it's clear that he fires them up. We see it when he gets ejected or when he goes out there and stands up for them. For a bad call by an umpire, one thing or another. I don't see really a lot of clear indications that he's going to that replacing him with some whoever it's going to be is going to have a significant impact. And you brought up the motivating. So one of the reasons why the Yankees have kept Boone, and one of the reasons why players have spoken about liking playing for him, is because of his motivational ability. So I question whether that would be a significant factor here, based on the fact that his personality is one of the reasons why he has the job he has right now.
Absolutely. I do agree with a lot you said there. I don't see too many managers in the wings. Yeah, there's Joe Girardi out there, but he ain't going to come back to the Yankees. Don Mattingly would have been here already if they were going to hire Don Mattingly as a manager. So who's that guy that's coming in to take over for
The
Boone?
only the only play not player, the only person I can think of as like a manager in the wings type in terms of someone, if you want to, the only one I can think of would be Joe Espada. He's the one name I could think of as somebody who could be like a manager in the wings type. But even so, if you ask me right now, would I rather have Boone or Espada? I'd rather have Boone.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. Uh, Next guy we're going to get into, and Jody's saying move one is DJ. He was a Gold Glove second baseman in Colorado. Play him there. Uh, DJ LeMahieu batting 232, 7 home runs, 27 RBIs in the first half season, 71 strikeouts. What's your first half thoughts on DJ?
He's my first F. I'm he might be my most disappointing player on the team this year. People can say, oh, it's Cabrera or it's Donaldson, but one of those, what goes in with, whether someone's a disappointment or not, comes in with the expectations. You had tempered expectations in all likelihood coming in to the season for Cabrera and for Donaldson. DJ, you expected to be one of the top players on your team. He's been terrible. And, they were at one point leading off Jake Bowers because he has just completely fallen out of being able to be trusted in the leadoff spot. And that's not, obviously not what the Yankees need right now. Um, in my opinion, I think, and I'm not saying that they should do this, but I think that if there's any player right now, aside from Donaldson, I think there's any player who should be feeling the heat on the back of his neck. In my opinion, it's DJ LeMahieu.
I agree with you. I'm going to give him a close to an F. I'm going to give him a D. And the only reason he's not getting an F is because he's playing all these positions in the infield. And I think that may be messing with his head a little bit.
That's
Uh,
fair. I had a similar thing with Torres last year. I think
yeah,
because whenever he was playing shortstop.
Jody's saying how he was a Gold Glove in Colorado, second baseman. Well,
Yep.
maybe we're going to get into some trade ideas. Maybe Glaber gets moved at the deadline, and DJ goes to second, and Peraza plays third. Peraza looked pretty good there today, in the couple innings he played. Uh, I don't know. We'll see what the second half of the season brings along, but I'm going to give DJ a D minus. I'm expecting big things from him. He had two doubles yesterday. I'm expecting him to hit better, and I think the All Star break hopefully helped him. But I don't want to see him play in a different position every day. If that means he plays third base every day with Donaldson out, he plays third base every day. I don't want to see him playing every position in the infield, first base one day, third base another, second base another. It messes with your head, I think, sometimes, and this could be affecting him at the plate. Uh, well, I'm hoping I'm right. We'll see, because you're not a 300 batter, 300. Uh, you're not a batting champion one year and batting 220 the following year without
No.
something going on. So let's hope he can improve off that D minus F that we gave him in the second half of the year. We'll do a couple of these quick, Ryan, so we can get on to the next topic.
Okay.
A couple guys that were hurt half the year. I'll give you both of them. We'll do it. We'll do a 2-for-1. Harrison Bader, 250, 7 home runs, 30 RBIs, and Giancarlo Stanton, 213, 11, 29.
So Bader, I'll give a B. He was never gonna come in and be, a big time bat. They got him for his speed. They got him for his defense. He's been providing both of those as well as you can expect. He hasn't done anything otherworldly, which is why I'm not going to give him, in the A range. But he's doing well at what you want him to do well at. So I'm going to give him a B.
And how about Stanton?
Stanton, excuse me. This one's tough. Cause he recently his numbers have started to get better. He started to play, more like the Stanton that we expect. But the layoff period where he was struggling was so long and so significant, especially for the contract he's getting. I'll give him I'll give him a D or a light D plus.
I'm with you with Stanton. About a solid D, maybe even a D minus. You came in with this huge contract, and all you've done in the years you've been here, besides that one little postseason, you're always is hurt. Okay, he's been healthy for a little bit now. Now he's starting to hit a little better. Home runs last few days. I want to see him stay healthy this
Mhm.
second half of the year. I don't want to see you back on the injured list, and you will gradually move up to a C or maybe a B if you can stay healthy.
The
Harrison
one thing,
Bader, I'll
sorry.
say, no, go ahead.
No, the one quick thing I will throw in there is, and I think Yankees fans in general, not you, but I think Yankees fans in general forget this. He's been arguably the most reliable hitter in the postseason the last couple years, which is one thing that I think can't be can't be disrespected and disregarded. I, I think that Yankees fans who say that this was a bust contract or one thing or another, I think that's a little bit misguided.
I think his problem is he wants to hit these 500-foot home runs, and he strains something, and he's out for a month after that
Right.
strain.
I
You
think
know,
he seems to manage the pressure in New York pretty well. I like the way he handles the media and whatnot, but I wonder if some of that is, I'm Giancarlo Stan. This is what New York's going to expect of me. I wonder if there's a little bit of that going on at times. But he's not just a good home run hitter. He's a good hitter. Just just don't try and be 59 home run Giancarlo Stanton. Be the guy who you made your name as, and things will fall into place.
agree. Harrison Bader, I'm going to give him a solid B. Again, I want to see him stay healthy, but when he's out there, he plays a great center field. can get to any ball hit in the outfield, and he's showing he has a little power, and he's showing that he can get on base. I would like to see him up closer to the top of the order, maybe lead off or bat in second as opposed
Mhm,
to clean up fifth or sixth,
mhm.
and maybe move a couple of guys down in the lineup, maybe move Stanton down or Rizzo down. I would like to see Bader up a little closer, so I'm going to give Bader a B, Stanton a D. Let's do a utility guy, and then we'll do a
Okay.
couple pitchers. Let's do IKF, Isaiah Kiner Falefa. 251, 5 homers, 23 RBIs, plays anywhere in the field.
I mean, you can call me biased for this. I give him an A. Isaiah Connor Falefa this year has, like you said, he plays anywhere. He's been one of the best hitters in clutch situations in baseball the last 2 years. I he has really turned his game around from the first half of last year, and in my opinion, they should be looking to extend him. I think that he's the most underrated player on the team.
Yep, I got no problems with IKF, and he gets an A from me as well. Anybody who can come in and play the outfield when asked, he played center field, he played left field, he played shortstop, he plays second base, he
And
plays catcher.
left field in Yankee Stadium is not an easy left field to play. That's been
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's so I this guy can play anywhere, valuable tool on defense, can get on base, can steal bases. He gets an A from me.
I think there's
Uh,
also something to be said for that the way he clearly handles himself from a personal standpoint. You can tell he buys into what it means to be a Yankee, and he just that whole presence about him. He seems like he fits in New York.
if you want, we can move on to the next topic. For pitchers, I had Cole listed solid A plus,
Yeah,
no
Cole,
brainer.
no A plus easily.
Uh, I mean Donaldson, I had F. I think
Yeah,
we can move on to a couple of our injured guys.
what's up?
We'll start with Aaron Judge. He's been out a while now. Let's start with Aaron Judge there, Ryan. Give me your thoughts on Aaron Judge's uh, injury. Is it more? Are you worried that he's not going to come back? Do you
Yeah.
think he's going to come back? What are your thoughts on it?
I definitely think he's going to come back. The one thing I will say, and this is where I haven't done this a lot this year, at least not in the last like month or two. I was at the beginning of the year, and I haven't been as much recently. But one area where I will defend the way the Yankees handle at least the um, front-facing camera side of injuries in general. He just knows, or whoever it is, whether it's Cashman, Boone, whoever, they are not going to put a timetable on things because they know that the pitchforks are going to come out the second that they're off by a day, which understandably so. But someone was, there were people a couple days ago who were like, "Oh, why are they not being more concrete about, how long Judge is going to be out?" And I understand it honestly as to why that they're not doing that. That being said, obviously every game that Aaron Judge is missing, um, it I think underscores how important he is to that team. And honestly, if the most valuable player award actually went to the most valuable player, I would argue Judge should be the second consecutive MVP because it's clear that without him, the Yankees are not even on the same stratosphere as where they are with him. Um, so my guess is that he'll probably be back sometime in um, early to mid August would be my guess. They're definitely not going to rush him back, but they also at the same time they need him back. So it's going to be kind of one of those balancing acts between because he said last week, if I were able to or if I were active, I'd be running only at 30 or 40%, whatever it was. And even though Judge's calling cards are his arm and his power, obviously you don't want a player to be that diminished speed wise because he's just going to be too limited in too many aspects of his game, and also depending on how it impacts his swing mechanics as well. So I'm hoping that from everything that we've been hearing, it sounds like hopefully they're targeting early to mid August, um, and hopefully it's not too much longer than that. But it's clearly in my opinion, the most impactful injury in baseball right now. And but I think the Yankees management. I mean, they take flack for everything, as we all know, and a lot of it's justified. But I think that in terms of how they're handling the communication about his injury, I think at times it's a little bit overdone, just because there's no it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if they say he's out for, you know, probably up to 2 months, then they're going to get blank for that. And if they don't say that and they're a little bit more fuzzy with it, then, they're going to come down on that side. So I do understand that they're kind of, in a hands tied situation as well.
Jody's agreeing power comes from the hips and legs.
Yeah.
Another valuable thing, we talk about the trade deadline, but getting Aaron Judge back, easily top five, arguably top three, top player in baseball.
Right.
You get him back, it's like making a trade.
Yeah.
So he's coming back. So
And people are gonna hate. People hate when either Cashman or Boone or Steinbrenner says, "Well, getting these guys back is like making deadline acquisitions." That is legitimate, and I mean
it
because
is.
it's not just Judge, it's Cortez, it's um, we just got Rodon back. He's only made 2 starts. I mean that is legitimate when you're missing as many guys as the Yankees are, and as many impact guys as the Yankees are.
Yep, you're putting a new player on the field, in my opinion. And even though
Right.
he's been on the team, it's a new team out there with him. So
Yep.
I think, yeah, I think he'll come back. And I'm going to answer this question from Jody. And if you disagree, Ryan, I'll let you go as well. He wants to know if this injury to Judge is a start to injury history with him. I don't think so, because the injuries he's having is when he's in the field running into a wall or diving for a ball. It's not an injury where he's swinging the bat. So I don't think it's an injury history for him. I just think he's had some bad luck. Do you agree with that, Ryan, or you disagree?
100%. I mean, just I'll bring in a personal comparison for a second. I've had two closed head injuries, and I don't think that I can consider that I'm injury prone. It's one of those things. Sometimes you just have bad luck on more than one occasion, and that's it's not like like you said, it's not a musculoskeletal thing. I can't say the word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Where he's pulling this and straining this and whatnot. We've got players that have those issues, and unfortunately, Judge, he he's plays with his hair on fire. He really does, and it's admirable, it's respectable, it's what the fans want to see. Because you know how it is, and I'm very much one of these people. You know how fans get when they see you play. At their perception of playing only at half or 3/4 level of intensity, and Judge showed that he's not going to do that, but at the same time there are consequences at times when you play at that level. So, it's unfortunate, but no, I don't consider this an injury. I don't consider Judge injury prone, just because he's had, like you said, some bad luck. It's not like he's, got a faulty elbow that he's been on the IL 4 times for, or a leg muscle that keeps acting up, throughout the course of his career.
Right, right. I agree. Uh, let's move on to our next topic, Ryan. I got some trade ideas to throw at you, and if you want to throw some at, oh no, wait, before we do that, I apologize. One more injured Yankee, and it's your favorite Yankee, Nestor Cortez. I
Right.
know he's on the 60-day IL. Tough,
Yes.
tough luck for him this year. Give us your thoughts on him real quick. Any hope for him on the second half of the season, or is it looking like he's coming to come back in 2024?
I'm Um, just in terms of him coming back, no, I have every reason to believe he's coming back. He's actually going to start a rehab assignment very soon. Hopefully, they're saying potentially as soon as next week. So I don't have any concerns about him not coming back this season. Um, my concern is with him production, because last year, excuse me, last year he was having a very, you know, he was looking like one of the best pitchers in baseball, which is, kind of where he started in 2021. He kind of was, similar level of production. And then this year, it's just not been, he's his command has not been quite as sharp as it was, giving up more home runs than he did last year. The one thing I will say is I think he ran into some bad luck. His batting average on balls in play was a balloon compared to where it has been the last 2 years, and that typically there typically is some regression to the mean with that. So I do think that he could be in line for some better performances down the stretch. But the later it gets into the season, and I mentioned this to somebody earlier today. You get into the postseason, the Yankees only have three starters who have multiple. I think it was at least three postseason starts for the Yankees. It's Cole, Severino, and Cortez. Severino has been a terrible pitcher in the postseason repeatedly. So aside from Garrett Cole, they need Cortez to be kind of that X factor player. They need him to show up and show out because they don't really know what they're going to get from anybody else besides Garrett Cole.
That's going to segue right into our next segment. Well, real quick, Jody wants to know if a move to first base helps him. That meaning Aaron Judge.
I'm assuming that means Aaron Judge.
Yeah,
I,
I don't think they would put him at first base.
I that well, because here's the thing, they just locked up Anthony Rizzo multiple years. So you're displacing him by moving Judge. And then yeah, I if this is a couple years down the road and they've got someone like a Spencer Jones or somebody like that, a higher level prospect coming up, who's ready to man right field long term, and they want to consider it, then maybe you look at it, I guess. But for now, and let's not forget, Aaron Judge is not just a great hitter who plays right field. He's a very good right fielder, and I feel like the arm that he has and the instincts that he has in right field is not, they're not a dime a dozen. So you'd be losing, I think, a lot by moving him to first base.
I agree 100%. All right, so we're going to move on to some trade ideas I came up with, Ryan, and just going to start with pitchers because we said Nestor Cortez. We don't know what we're going to get back from Nestor.
Right.
We got Anthony Rendon, Carlos Rodon. Why am I saying Anthony Rendon? I'm thinking third base. Carlos Rodon just coming back. We don't know what we're going to get out of him second half of the season. I came up with some pitchers, Ryan. You're just going to tell me yes, no, maybe. And I got their contracts in front.
Okay.
First guy I wrote down, Shane Bieber, 4-3 with the Guardians, 3.57 ERA, a 1.28 WHIP. 80 innings pitched, 55 strikeouts. He's arbitration available in 2024.
So is this yes or no in terms of if I think he's realistic, or in terms of if would I go for him?
Realistic for would you go for it, and would it be realistic for us?
I don't think it'd be realistic. Cleveland has actually had a better year than some people expected. I feel like that's not, if they were going to be considering moving Bieber, I feel like they've probably backed off that at least until the offseason. As far as would I pursue it, I'm going to say no. And I know you can never have too much pitching, but with the resources that the Yankees have right now, as far as financial capital and prospects, considered to be finite, I don't think that I would prioritize, adding another starting pitcher, because I'll reference real quick the trade that was made last year with St. Louis when they traded Jordan Montgomery for Harrison Bader. I would argue, in fact, that with the pitching depth that they have right now, they've got Brito, they've got Vasquez, they've got prospects like Bader and Warren and Thorpe. Guys like that, I would argue that they actually have the ability to trade one or two of their major league starters if they so desire, to try and go and get a better left fielder or a third baseman if they want to ship out Donaldson. That would be the route that I'd be more willing to actually trade a pitcher to try and bring in some more offense, as opposed to looking to continue to build up the pitching staff.
There's a couple packages I came up with because you just said third base. Pitching, third base, left field seem to be our three positions. Here's a package deal I'm going to throw at you.
Mm-hmm.
Buyout in 2024, Alex Cobb, 5-2, 3.01 ERA, He's got 74 innings pitched, 71 strikeouts, and I'm going to bring along either Michael Conforto or J.D. Davis. I'm not going to be able to get all three. I'm going to be able to get one of those two position players in a package deal.
Um,
You want the stats? Like Conforto's batting 241,
no, 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 no.
1347.
What I'm trying to think is what San Francisco is going to be asking for that package.
Yeah,
Um, because that's that's a major factor of it. Because J.D. Davis, he's okay. He's not in any stretch, in my opinion, in any sort of a difference making player. So he's, I think somebody that you potentially go after if, as an if all else fails type of a guy. Um, and then the other name you get, Michael Conforto.
yeah.
Um, Conforto, he's somebody I would have loved to have, 5 years ago, but between the injuries that he had in 2021 into missing all of last year, you know, what the Yankees issue this season, what's the thing that I always say? The best ability is availability, and I would be way too concerned bringing someone with the injury history of Michael Conforto as trying to make him a difference maker to this team. Even though I do like him as an offensive player.
I would do this if I was the Yankees. Ryan McMahon from Colorado. I like him as a player. What are your thoughts on him from Jody?
So excuse me. McMahon, well, it's funny. McMahon, actually, I was buying his stock in fantasy every chance I could for the longest time. Um, the concern that I have with him is he's barely a league average offensive player at his position, and he plays in Coors Field half of the time. I would have liked to see a lot more. You know, he's basically a Josh Donaldson light at this point, where I get more with his glove than his bat, and just don't get and I'm just not paying 25 million for it. I think that their profiles right now are pretty similar. And I would be concerned about if he's going to take an even if you're looking at somebody who doesn't strike out a lot and who gets on base a good amount. That's not what you're going to get with this guy. It's just not. Um, he's had a better year in terms of getting on base. He's walking more than he used to, but not a player that I'd have particular interest in at that position.
Fair enough. Couple free agent pitchers. So this would be uh, a rental type of thing.
Yep.
Got Zach Greinke. Listen to these stats: 1-6, a 4.5 ERA, but he's got a 1.13 WHIP, and he's got 50 Ks and 66 innings. And then Lucas Giolito, 5-4, 3.75. He's got 76 strikeouts and 74 innings, a 1.2 WHIP. Both free agents. It would be strictly a rental. Would you do either one for a rental?
I love Zach Greinke. Could not be a harder no from me. The WHIP, compared to the ERA, tells me that he's giving up a ton of long balls, which is definitely not going to get better going to New York. He's not striking out guys the way that he used to. I know that he struggles with anxiety and whatnot, and I can't see him going to New York, that being a good thing for him, from a psychological standpoint. Just knowing the stuff that and how he typically has preferred, aside from being in LA, typically has preferred to be on less visible clubs. I think that that's just asking for a disaster. And then
And
Giolito, you said, was the other name. Um,
rental, yeah.
he he's been he's the guy that I consider the best player who I think is going to get moved at the deadline. He just turned 29 a couple days ago. Um, Again, it comes down to and not to be it's not trying to be a cop out answer, but it comes down to what the Yankees have to give up for him. I would definitely be in on him for the right package. Excuse me. I like the numbers that he's put up. He doesn't he's not an extremely strikeout pitcher, but he's also not giving up a ton of home runs. He's not. He's kind of always been consistent with regard to the rate of runs he or home runs he gives up, and he gives you 30 starts a year. I mean, I think there's definitely, I think, a scenario in which I could see myself offering a good package for Joe Lito. It's just a question of what that package is, because I'm not one of the fans who basically says go give them whatever they want, because I it's you still have to do business. So to me, it would just come down to what they're actually wanting for him in a package.
Exactly, and I need to know if he's willing to stay because I'm not afraid uh, of the market. He's playing in Chicago. He'd be coming to
No.
New York. I'm not afraid of the market. He would be the most realistic guy I would go after on this list, as opposed to Bieber, who's playing in Cleveland. I don't know if he would handle the New York media very well. Uh, Two more guys from our guy Carson from team Carson's team, the Detroit Tigers. I got Michael Lorenzen, 2-3, 3.75 ERA. He's got a one whip, 67 innings pitched, only 16 walks, and he's got a 2.13, I'm sorry, 3.7 ERA. And of course, he's a free agent as well, so
Hmm.
it could be a rental. Or Eduardo Rodriguez, 3 years, 49 million, 2.13 ERA, 1.3 ERA, 0.98 WHIP, 16 walks and 67 innings pitched.
Um, well, first of all, before I get into either of those two guys, I'm skeptical that Detroit will or should trade either of those guys right now. Because we talk about it with the way that the AL Central has been. Um, I'm again, I'm skeptical that they would even really make um, that move. I think that they could, if things go well for them over the next week, they could be a sneaky buyer, in my opinion, or at least hold the fort with the guys that they have. Um, Lorenzen, he's he's a player that I would go after with a very clear line in the sand in terms of players not giving up for him. I'm not giving up any of my top prospects to go get Lorenzen. I'm not, giving up, a Torres or someone off my major. If I can get him for one or two of my pitching depth guys, then I'll consider that. But Lorenzen is just not a player that I look at and say I'm willing to go and move somebody off of the Dominguez. And you guys know me, I'm not a prospect hugger, but I'm not gonna also overpay for
Right.
mediocre. I'm not gonna basically do what the Dak Prescott of paying A or A plus or B minus or A or B plus level for C level talent. And then as for Erod, and I happen to be quite an Erod fan. Um, Someone else I don't think that they necessarily should move, especially because he's a left-hander, and left-handed pitching is a premium, as we know. Looking at where he's at right now, he would be the player I'd be more interested in of the two. Um, he's you know not a player who I think is going to be a major concern as somebody who in terms of home run, long ball, like giving up the home run basically. As for his history, yeah, he plays in Detroit now, but he spent several years in Boston and did very well for multiple seasons. So he's also somebody who I can see not having issues with the big market. So I would honestly argue that perhaps of everybody that you've listed pitching wise, he might be the main player that I go after.
Yeah, the 3 years looks great. You're getting him for 16 million a year, and
Mhm.
you
He's
know,
that is a scenario in which if you're asked because of his control and because of where he's at right now, that's a scenario in which if you ask me, not a Volpe and not a Peraza, but if you ask me for somebody like a Warren or like a perhaps a Dominguez or someone like that, I'm at least not immediately shutting off the phone.
yeah. And you know what? Detroit, like you said, they could be sneaky buyers in the deadline. They do have a good major league roster, young core, Torkelson, Riley Green. They
Yeah.
don't need to, uh, who are their
They don't,
backups?
and that's
You know,
that's one thing. Even regardless of the team that I root for, that's one thing I don't like seeing is teams that I think don't need to sell selling. if you have even if you have only an outside shot, just don't do a ton to your roster and see what happens. Guys get hot. Players on other teams get injured.
Yep.
It's we saw it happen with Baltimore last year. They traded Trey Mancini at the deadline. I'm like, why are you doing this?
And how good of a story would it be in a weak division? The Tigers make a run with Miguel Cabrera's last year. You know,
I would be so happy for Carson for that.
yeah. So let's hope. Let's see what happens there. A couple position players, and then we'll do a quick 2024 outlook.
Cool.
Players that can come back. Uh, I wrote down this guy on for third base. Nationals. Jaime Candelario,
I'm so glad you said
264,
that because
7 homers, 28 RBIs.
I've been advocating for the Yankees going after Candelario for a couple weeks.
Yeah,
I think that of anybody who's available at third base, I think he's the best option, both in terms of what I believe he'll cost, what he's doing production wise, and his where he's at financially. I think that if you're going to go for somebody on the trade market at third base, I think he's easily the number one guy I would go after.
me too. And you know what? That would be an upgrade at third base from what we have right now. And
You would be an
obviously,
upgrade. You would be an upgrade
yeah,
at third base.
yeah. A couple outfielders I wrote down. Uh, Brian Reynolds, always in the mix. Pirates, they're probably going to be sellers because they really went downhill fast. And Brian Reynolds' name always gets mentioned. It hasn't gotten mentioned yet, but I'm mentioning it. 262, 9 homers, 32 RBIs.
They just not even 4 months ago, not even 3 months ago, gave him the biggest contract extension in Pittsburgh Pirates history. I can't see them going from that and the subsequent, um, kind of hot start to the season that they had. I think it would just be such a let down to the fans, to suddenly 2 months later say, "Oh, we're actually going to trade this guy." If it happens like it did with the Rangers in the early 2000s, where you need to move him in a couple years, then it is what it is. But when you're just coming off of a surprise start to the season, and fans finally being excited that they're actually going to extend one of their own and keep one of their own around for the long haul, which they really haven't done since the McCutcheon era. I don't think that that's a realistic player to go after personally.
Our good friend Return the Belt saying hello. What's up, Return the Belt? Thank you for joining us. And Jody wants to know if you would trade DJ. I would if the package was right. He's not untouchable.
See,
I've lost
here's
confidence in him.
the problem that I have is not that he would be untouchable for me by any stretch, but I always have a reluctance to when guys are struggling saying, "Oh, trade this guy," because you're gonna get 30% value for him. And he's on a $90 million contract. He's on his worst year offensively since he came to New York. I see no real benefit to trying to trade him right now. Now, again, I agree that he should be one of the players who um is more like the clock is ticking on him, because again, you can't be on a $90 million contract and be performing the way that he is. But in terms of trading him before this deadline, I can't see it. That would be a horrible business move. Um, when he did just give you five, or I think it was 4 or 5 years of well above average all-star caliber production, and now they're going to trade him when his value is at its lowest. I think that would just be a terrible decision.
Yeah, the only way he goes is if something crazy package. They say, "Oh, we want DJ in return," and that means like bringing me, you know, one of these pitchers we talked about, like Giolito, if they for some reason would want DJ, which they would never want DJ in return
No,
for Giolito, that would be the only way I would do it. Kurt saying great show, boys, and the graphics look good. Thanks, Kurt. Thanks for
thanks,
the help
bud.
with the graphics.
Hope you're
Uh,
enjoying your vacation. Which one is it this week?
yeah, it's got this is his second of three this summer.
Yeah,
one more outfielder, Ryan, and then we'll get into the final segment of the night. Uh,
cool.
Cody Bellinger. He's having a very good year, batting 305, 12 homers, 35 RBIs. only 45 strikeouts. I'm going to go real quick. I'm in on it if the price is right. We've been saying that all night. I'm not giving up a ton for him if they want one of my pitching prospects. If it means uh, Burrito or somebody on that level, I'm doing it. But I'm not giving up Peraza, not giving up Volpe or Dominguez. If they want a pitching prospect and somebody maybe like a Bowers or uh, somebody else who's come up, a Cabrera. If they want one of those guys, they can have him for Bellinger, and that's pretty much the only way I would bring Bellinger over. How about you, Ryan?
I've heard Bellinger quite a bit the last couple of days, and going into the past like week or two. Don't quite understand why I'm hearing his name so much. Yes, I get the bat is coming back and all of that, and it seems logical because again he's on a team that's going to be selling and whatnot. His primary position this year has been center field, which if you're bringing him over to play center field, that means you're moving Bader to left field, which significantly reduces his value because one of his biggest selling points is his center field defense and speed. Um, Either that or you're moving him to first base, which unless you're going to reduce playing time for Anthony Rizzo, who I know he's struggling right now, but unless you're going to reduce playing time for Anthony Rizzo going forward, I don't see how he's going to become any sort of significant factor at first base, meaning Bellinger. So no, this is one that's getting a lot of heat recent or a lot of buzz recently, and I personally just don't understand it. Um, not a player that I would go after personally.
Fair enough. I would go after him. So it's one of the ones I would disagree on. If I said if the price is right, I would see if he would play left field, first of all, because of Harrison Bader's injury history. It gives you depth at center field if something was to happen to Bader.
Mhm.
Uh, he's having a bounce back year. I think his style of play, his offense fits perfect in Yankee Stadium with the short
Mhm.
porch. I think he would do good at Yankee Stadium. So we'll see what happens.
I
That's one
will.
of the ones I disagree with you on, and
I will say real
respectfully
quick,
disagree.
because I had just heard this a little while ago before I came on the show. One more name that I'll throw in here: Rockies outfielder Randall Grichuk is apparently someone the Yankees have also been discussing. Has been looking at. Not a defensive factor really. So I think he would be one of those guys who you bring in to left field and kind of just accept the subpar defense because of what you believe the bat's going to be. Um, and this has been one of his better offensive seasons. Um, Again, not somebody who I think I would be super hell bent on trying to bring in because he's one of those guys who you can just tell his numbers are significantly boosted by playing his home games in Coors Field. He goes from at home 337, 400 OBP, slugging over 500. Away, he's 263, OBP of 333, slugging just over 400. So, not a bad player away from Coors Field, but uh, for the defensive struggles that he would have in left field. Unless you can get him on a value deal, I'm not super interested in it. But I did want to bring him up just because I had heard that report before I came on the show.
Jody's here, and Chas McCormick from the Astros
This
is
is
a
the
name.
fourth or fifth time that he said that, and I've not heard that from anybody but him. But I'd be very interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Ryan, let's say we got about 15 minutes roughly left. We'll go to about 9:30 tonight. Appreciate all the
Okay.
comments coming in. I'm going to pass it off to you for our final segment tonight. Some players that may or may not come back in 2024, in our opinions.
All right, sounds good. Let me get my list up real quick, and then um, so I'll name the player or whoever that in terms of do I think he's going to be back or not, and then you can just kind of give me your thoughts first, and then I'll give mine afterward.
Sure.
Um, so um, I'll start with you know I- start with a bit of an interesting one who hasn't been talked about a lot, but he is somebody that could potentially be gone after the year. Tommy Canley, the relief pitcher. Do you want me to pull?
Uh,
If you want me to read some numbers, I will.
do you have his contract number, like how much he's making this year? Or
Yeah, I'll pull that up right now. So his contract, he is not a free agent until 2025. So he's got one more year of control, but he's one of those year to year type guys. And excuse me, this year he's on a 2 year, $11.5 million deal. So he'll make a 5.8 million next year.
right now, I would say he would not come back. But if he shows me he can play the whole second half of the season with no injuries, I think about
Hmm.
bringing him back next year. So if you ask me right now, I'm going to say no, he's not back next year. And I'm a Tommy Canley fan, so that one's going to sting a little bit.
Hmm.
But I would not bring him back if he's having a injury plagued second half of the year.
That's fair. Obviously the injuries are one of the reasons why he was even available for New York to get this year. But until today, where he absolutely, obviously, just crapped out, he was having a fantastic season. He looks healthy by all accounts. I am going to be keeping him going into next year, personally, especially on the 5.8 million. But definitely can understand the hesitation there
And,
based on his injury
and just
history.
one more thing, I today is a pass. Anytime you pitch in Colorado, it's a pass for me. So he
Yeah.
gets a pass
Yeah, no,
in that
yeah, no,
altitude in the
I agree with
daytime.
that, and similar with people were talking about Sean Casey with the last couple of days, and some of the other guys that Carlos Rodon was another one. He had made his second start off of an injury in Coors Field, all of that. There's good number of guys, both Rodon and Canley are among them. I completely agree with you that are not. I'm not going to judge them too heavily based on what they did in
No,
this series.
absolutely not.
Um, Next guy I'll give you, and this is a guy who we didn't actually bring up in that grading segment, but if I had given out any other Fs, one of them would probably have been to this guy, Luis Severino.
We didn't get to the pitchers. He is not coming back because the Yankees, for some reason, will not take a shot at him and putting him in the bullpen. All his struggles, usually you see a guy go to the bullpen. I just watched the Mets yesterday, and David
Hmm.
Peterson is now in the bullpen in
Hmm.
in New York. Severino, I think you can move on from him, and thank you for your service here. You've been a good Yankee in the past, but I think your injury history and your time is up in New York. Get revived in a small market, and revive your career there.
Hmm. Hmm. I You kind of made the same point that I was going to make, which is I would retain him. Now he's on a different situation. He is a free agent after this year.
Okay.
Um, I would bring him back on a short-term deal if, again, if I start or put him in the bullpen to end this season and he does well. That's the way that I bring him back, is if I convert him to a reliever, which is what I've been saying to do for over a year. If I convert him to a reliever and if he succeeds in that role the way that I think he can, that's the way I'm bringing back Severino. He is not coming back in my mind as a starting
We are
pitcher.
100% in agreement with that one. I think he can be an elite reliever with his stuff.
I do too. I think that he can be kind of like the Dellin Betances type, where he, you know, just couldn't, do it long term as a starting pitcher. But I think his fastball and the stuff that he plays off of it could be filthy in the eighth inning, for
For
example,
those who don't,
or
for those who don't
or
know,
A Chad Green type
yeah,
role where he goes multiple
and
innings.
for those who don't know, Mariano Rivera, the greatest closer in history, started
Yeah,
his career as a starting pitcher with the Yankees.
yeah. Um, Next one. One of the guys that I have on my list is Frankie Montas, but until he actually plays, I'm not going to include
Right.
him on this one.
Okay.
I'll go. Let's go Gleyber Torres, because he's one of the ones that I think we had a little more, um, back and forth as to how we felt about Torres this year.
I'm gonna answer this one way only. If the Yankees don't trade him at the deadline, he will be back next year. and that's it's
Fair
very
enough.
simple answer, simple way of putting it. I think
Yeah,
he'll be back if they don't move him.
yeah,
Uh, I think they're gonna they move. Eventually, you'll see Peraza and Volpe in the infield, but right now, if the
yeah.
Yankees don't move Torres, he'll be back next year.
I would pretty much agree with that. The other thing I will say is I do think that there is a legitimate chance that if not before the deadline, then sometime this offseason that he does get traded. I would be surprised if he were back next year only because I do believe he does get traded. Um, but I wouldn't. He's not someone that I'd be like actively looking to let go of. Um, but I think that it makes sense to trade him if there's the right offer out there. Um, because like you said, I would want Peraza and Volpe manning my middle infield next year.
Yeah.
Um, Next guy I'll give you. This one's a more interesting one because he reminds me of Michael Pineda in a sense where when Domingo Herman is on, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. But when he's off, it can be how is this guy in the major leagues? Now, obviously, there's the extenuating factors for his antics off the field, both with the situation a couple years ago, and then also with some of the questionable decisions he made earlier this season regarding the ejection and whatnot. Just purely for his on field production. What is your take on Domingo Herman, who, by the way, has 1 year of arbitration left after this season?
His antics, of course, I don't like, but you know what? I'll take him back next year as a number 4, maybe even a number 5 starter. Gonna have Cole, Nestor, and Rodon at the top of the list. Uh, who knows where else we're gonna have? We may have Clark Schmidt still or Herman, but I'm
Right.
gonna bring Herman back for uh, depth, pitch and depth.
Yeah.
I'll bring him back next year.
Yeah. I agree. He's had three really bad starts this season. All of his other starts have been pretty good. And I think that obviously the perfect game I think is gonna he's obviously etched his name into Yankee history forever with that. Um, One of the greatest memories I'll have as a sports fan. Um, but I think that there's just not, and again, keeping aside the stuff that we obviously already know regarding some of the issues that he's had. I am not a Domingo Herman fan. I don't like a lot of what he's done, and I don't like the fact that from that perspective that he's stayed on the Yankee roster. If you're asking, which for the sake of this segment, just pure production, there's just not a lot of players who can consistently give you 0 or 1 earned run performances and go 6+ innings. There's just not a ton of those guys, especially in the American League East. So I'm keeping Domingo Herman around on those grounds. Um, Here's another one who I think doesn't get a ton of uh, attention just based on the role that he plays, but I think is an interesting one to discuss. And then after this, I'm going to go to a couple of non-players. Um, but catcher Kyle Higashioka, he's another guy who's got 1 year of arbitration left after this year. Um, he's hitting 231. Obviously, has never been a significant factor with the bat. Although I think that his numbers this year are a little bit lower than they should be, and just in terms of I think that he's gotten a little bit unlucky at times offensively. But you can't argue with the defensive ability, which is obviously what catcher is mostly about. So, what do you think? Are you keeping Higashioka for 1 more year?
I'm 100% bringing him back next year. He's the one who caught Herman's perfect game. Uh, Calls a great game, plays a great defensive catcher, above average defensive catcher, and that's what you want. Like, you nailed it. Like, you don't. I don't need Mike Piazza numbers from Kyle Higashioka when you're
Right.
supposed to have that in the rest of your lineup. So 100% bringing him back. He gels well with the pitching staff, and he's been around for a couple years now, so he knows a lot of the pitching staff that's been here for a couple years.
Yeah, he's actually at least I'm pretty sure that he is currently the longest tenured Yankee in terms of how long he's been in the organization
Wow.
itself. I think that he's been in the organization, I think, since I think it was '08 or something like that. Um, and there is something to be said for that, I believe, because other than that, I think it's either Luis Severino or Aaron Judge.
And you know what? He's
But
batting 230. If he can get up to 250, 240, 250, that's all I want from you. I don't need you to bet
and
300.
he really started this season as the backup catcher because Jose Trevino had really taken that role. So if I'm getting 250 or even 240 at the plate from a backup catcher, I got no problem with that, especially if he's giving me the defense that Higashioka does.
Exactly.
Um, so now I'm going to give you now no surprises with either of these, but because just where we're at with the Yankees right now, I think that they're both, obviously going to be have been talked about all season, and are going to get continue to be. Aaron Boone, are you, if you're in the position to make the decision about changing manager or retaining manager, is Aaron Boone managing the Yankees in 2024 in your mind?
I think he should get a pass for
Yeah,
2024 if we don't
yeah,
make the playoffs. But I think if we
yeah.
miss the playoffs, I think there's a chance he may be gone next year as a scapegoat.
Mhm. I completely agree with that. Obviously, I've been, more of a Boone defender than most. I'm not seeing of all the problems that we've been having this year, whether it's injuries, obviously, whether it's the inability of our left field and third baseman, to produce offensively, whether it's some of the poor base running mistakes that Gleyber Torres has made. I'm just struggling to see what of these things Boone can do much about. If I'm seeing him go and make consistent questionable bullpen decisions or pinch hitting decisions, or the lineup comes out, I see every other day, people are the lineups being posted, and they're like, well, what is this lineup? Why is this guy batting here? Okay, well, nobody in the lineup is hitting well, so
Mhm.
someone's got to hit there. Um, so yeah, no, I think Boone should get a pass going into 2020. Now, 2024, if there's problems and again, and you can trace some of that beyond just injuries or beyond just hitters not knowing how to do their jobs, then I think at that point it's too long to the point where you have to start considering it. But as of right now, I don't see any reason why Boone should be on the hot seat.
No, and besides Cole, Judge is hurt, but besides Cole, you got Josh Donaldson, he was batting 140. You got Severino
Yep,
with over a 7 ERA in your starting
yep,
lineups. Okay. I mean, we mentioned a bunch of other
yep,
names. Rodon just coming back injured. Cortez is
yep,
injured. Another starting pitcher injured. Uh,
yep.
you know, no left field production. If
They've also had several relievers, get banged up over the
the
last
the,
couple
the
months, and
relievers banged up, you told me
that
this.
that was considered the strength of their team for a while.
If you told me this and we'd still be fighting for a wild card, I would laugh at you. I would say you're
Yeah,
crazy. I think we'd have more like a Kansas City Royals type of record. So he
yeah,
should get a pass this year if we don't make the playoffs.
yeah.
And I'm not the biggest Aaron Boone fan, but the guy deserves another chance with this Yankee team to manage the team if we just miss the playoffs.
The Yankees have two guys right now who are in their regular starting lineup who have an OBP over 300, and they're barely below 500 since Judge has been out. I would argue, if anything, that actually reflects positively on Boone rather than negatively, because if you have only two guys with an OBP over 300 for almost 2 months, and you're still right within striking distance of a playoff spot and still not completely out of contention for your division, I mean, the and kudos to the pitching staff as well, because they've really bailed out the offense at times. But yeah, no, I think we are in agreement on Boone on that one. Now,
Jody's just
this is
disagreeing with us real quick. He's saying he doesn't get a pass playing DJ at four different sport spots regularly. I get that. That's why I think there should be a move, Jody. But when you got a third baseman batting 140, you
right.
got to try and put somebody else there, Jody, in my opinion, and
And
that's DJ.
what also hurts as well is that they've got no natural shortstop on the roster outside of Volpe, other than Peraza, who just got called up. So that was another issue that they were having is, one of the reasons you mentioned it earlier, Volpe's been playing every day. Part of it's because he has to, because they don't really have an alternative option at shortstop. So that I think is another reason why DJ keeps getting bounced around is because that position is not, able to be fluid. And then the other guy that I'll ask you about, which of course is, the other obvious one, where are you in Brian Cashman coming off of this season? If you want to say, it depends on, you know, how far we get in the playoffs or one thing or another, but what's your take right now on the Brian Cashman situation?
He's the one right now that I'm leaning more towards time to move on. You gave us great 20 something years here in this organization, but all
Right,
good things come to an end. And I think it may be
right,
time. Uh, I think with the new rules in baseball, this team is not built for these new rules. This team is built for the
right.
old style of baseball. Hit the home
Yeah,
run, hit 3 or 4 home runs a game and win big like that. These new rules are not set up for the Yankees stealing bases. Besides Volpe, stealing bases. You ain't gonna get any stolen bases from Stanton, Rizzo, et cetera, et
no.
cetera. Uh, the pitching, I just feel he's got to make. He's had some questionable moves. For the longest time, I don't think he's been able to find a pitcher. Yeah, we got Cole for the big contract, but I can only count a few good pitching moves he's made in his career, and I think that's the one flaw, in my opinion, he gets from me. He's at the top, so unfortunately, the ones at the bottom are going to go before him. So I think he'll be back. If the Yankees don't make the playoffs, he would be the one that I would move on from, not Boone and not any of the other coaches. But Cashman's time, I think, has come.
Mhm. I would agree with that, and I know that I've been, labeled as a Cashman apologist or a Cashman defender, whatever you want to say, because I do think that people are quick to say, "Oh, he's a terrible general manager. He's this, that, and the other," um, or he, just he destroyed the organization, which I think that's just comical. I think that there's been plenty of moves, in recent years, whether you want to look at going and getting um, Michael Pineda, whether you want to look at, the bringing up, drafting and developing guys like Jordan Montgomery, who, and, getting back Nestor Cortez and, what he did last year, going and getting Jameson Tyone, who had very good period of time with the Yankees, more so than I think most people expected, including myself. Um, there have been guys like, I can also go to, Evaldi, I can go to, several other players who, when he went and got them as starting pitchers, and yeah, I remember even back to being, I think it was like 13 years old, he brought in guys like Brandon McCarthy. Um, so he's had, a decent hits on guys that you wouldn't expect him to hit on. The problem for him, I think, has been that his bigger profile acquisitions that had higher expectations, the J Haps, the James Paxton, which he got hurt, so that's a little bit different. The Sonny Grays, the so far the Frankie Montas, which again I was an advocate for that, I'm not going to pretend like I thought that was not the right move because that was the one that I wanted.
I'm with you.
These
I'm with you. I like that
the,
move too.
the guys that he goes out and the more high profile acquisitions the last few years on the pitching market, aside from guys like Garrett Cole, um, this is the other thing too, is you can't, and I am a big numbers guy, I'm a big analytics guy. You can't sometimes quantify or project how a guy's going to do in New York, like under the New York lights. And that's one thing where I'm like, how much of that do I put on Cashman, and how much of that is just frustrating circumstances? Because you know I don't know if anybody, Cashman or whoever, can sit down, look at a guy, and really get a sense of, can this guy handle it in New York, until he's actually put in the position to prove that he can or can't. So that's the other thing that when I do think about arguments of keeping Cashman, that's one thing that comes to mind, is I don't know how much better you can get at knowing that type of thing, because that's really, I think, what the main issue was with guys like Sonny Gray. But at the end of the matter is it's a results driven business. So I think that he comes back if the bottom falls out and this team misses the playoffs or even gets bounced in the first round. Um, I think that the questions and the discussion surrounding the future of Cashman as the Yankees GM would become more um, prominent than they've been in years past. And I'll throw this out there because Jody Moncrief just said, "Who would you replace Cashman with?" I would suggest I would think about this. Promote Cashman to president of baseball operations and bring Brian Sabian, who they brought on as an advisor this offseason, bring him in as general manager. Um, maybe only for a short term, while they, develop somebody else they want to take over long term. But if there's anybody who has proven that he can win in baseball now, but also still understands what was winning in baseball 20 years ago when the Yankees were a dynasty, Brian Sabian may be the one person who knows who can do that. So I would seriously consider if they do move on from Cashman or that they do want to make a change up there, I would consider trying to give Brian Sabian a more prominent role in the front office.
I got a couple names too. I don't know their availability or if they would be available or even willing to come here. Theo Epstein would be a name I would look.
Yeah, he's I think the obvious. If you're looking outside of the organization, I think he's the obvious first one to look at just based on his success
Here's an
in multiple big markets.
This one really intrigues me. He's old now. He's up there in age. Billy Bean. How would he do here in a totally different style of baseball where he didn't have any payroll? Now he's got payroll to work with. I would take a chance with that for like a 2-year contract. Like he ain't going to be around much longer. He's going to retire soon, probably. I would take a chance at
Mhm.
that and see what he can do. And then maybe somebody either from the Rays or Orioles organizations. I'm watching these two teams do it the right way. And
It's it's tough because I see the logic of that. At the same time, the last team to hire a major guy out of Tampa Bay was Boston with Chaim Bloom, and they haven't really had a lot of significant results with him. So
yeah,
I I do agree that you try and look at the organizations who have done well and try and look at who they have, but also just because an organization has done well doesn't always necessarily mean that getting their because you know saw that happen with we see it happen in the NFL too, where I got this offensive coordinator from the number two offense, and then come in
and
and he's over his skis as a head coach.
that's a
So
great point because the Rays and Orioles doing it from their minor leagues. They don't really go out and get the free
right,
agents. So you're asking somebody to come in and do a
right,
different style. So maybe that's why it's not working in
right.
Boston.
And I'll make this point really quick, but that's also we talk about Brian Cashman. The guys that I would be looking more at this offseason, Michael Fishman, Damon Oppenheimer, the guys who are running the player development and the minor leagues and all of that. The Yankees, and we were going over this earlier in a group chat that I'm in. The Yankees went and they made four major trades in 2016 to quote unquote rebuild. They traded um, Andrew Miller, they traded Carlos Beltran, they traded Aroldis Chapman, and they traded Ivan Nova. So they made those four trades back in 2016. The Aside from Gleyber Torres, the only player, and I'll use wins above replacement just because that's the one way I can really quantify everything together. The only player who had even a positive wins above replacement value in his career in New York after the trade was Adam Warren, who the Yankees already had previously. They got next to nothing out of that, or out of that they
Yeah.
guys for guys like Zach Britton and James Paxton and whatnot. But in terms of the guys that they actually traded for, contributed practically no value in New York. They need to figure out why there's not doing well at drafting and developing guys, and even at acquiring talent, minor league talent from other teams. That I think, and that's why I always say I don't think that Brian Cashman, just letting him go, I don't think is going to magically solve everything. There's guys over there that are just not bringing in minor league talent drafted and developed and whatnot at the same level of these other organizations. And you're not gonna. I don't care if it's Brian Cashman doing it or any of the other guys we mentioned, it's just not a long term sustainable. I don't care how big your payroll or budget is.
Right. I agree. Uh, got any other guys, Ryan, or you want to take? If not, with time for
No, that
final thoughts,
that
we
that
hit
was
an hour
that
and a
was the
half.
last guy I really wanted to get your opinion
Nope.
on. I kind of cut through a couple of the players just because I think it was pretty clear that we were both going to be on the same page as them, and I didn't find those particularly as interesting.
No, this is it was a great segment, great show. I think we time for final thoughts. We went an hour and a half, so I think it's time
Yeah,
for some final thoughts. So pass it off to you for your final thoughts.
yeah. Well, Kenny, thanks. This is obviously our first time doing this, but I had a lot of fun doing it. We should do this more often. Um, I obviously I want to see them shake off this series very quickly. I'm still looking forward to the next couple weeks before the deadline. I'm still looking forward to seeing what Coach Casey has in store as he continues to really grab hold of this lineup. And um, I think that we're gonna get Judge back soon. We're gonna get Cortez back. You know, this has been a 500 team without most of its best players that are going to be coming back, and we may still get guys at the deadline. I I do not have the level of pessimism that a lot of Yankees fans have right now. We are right in the thick of this thing, in spite of how bad it's been over the last 6 months or the last 6 weeks, and the lineups only and pitching staff is only going to continue to improve and get healthier. So I think that there's if you're chewed down on the Yankees right now, I think that you might want to be a little more patient. I know that doesn't really go with the Yankee fan base, but I think that better times are coming and coming very soon.
I agree with you, Ryan. I think better times are coming and trade deadlines coming up. But this is the biggest guy that's coming back right here.
Absolutely, quite literally the biggest guy.
And you know what? It's going to be equal to a blockbuster trade. So
Right.
looking forward to Mr. Aaron Judge coming back to the Yankee lineup. But like you said, Ryan, thank you for joining me on this first Yankee special we had. We're doing a lot
Thank
of
you,
these.
Kenny.
Paul did one with the Mets, and Kurt did a couple Knicks ones. We'll definitely do another Yankees one because, good or bad, there's always news in the Yankees organization. So hopefully
Absolutely,
we
never
can
a dull
bring
moment.
hopefully we can bring good news on our next show. But if it's bad, we'll still come on and do the bad.
Yep.
But hopefully it's good. And I want to thank everybody for joining us throughout the show. Jody Keith out there in Colorado, Denver Bronco Roundup, Carson, Dave Slade, Return to Belt. I want to thank Kurt. Big thanks to Kurt for setting up the graphics for us, I should say. All the Yankee graphics and the players that you saw. Big thanks to Kurt showing me how to do that today and helping us out with that. So, other than that, everybody, I hope you have a good night and go Yankees.
Yankees. Good night, y'all.